did what I now call alley surfing. And alley surfing was a cool way to say collecting junk. I would drive up and down alleys and I would be looking for old things, old windows, old doors, old pieces of wood, anything metal, anything that I thought was cool and had a little bit of a patina to it. And I personally loved patina on anything. And for those of you guys who don't know what patina is, it's kind of like the natural-ish that Mother Nature left on whatever had something cool in the alley. I would just throw it in the back of my pickup truck and I would drop it off at my mom's. My mom was kind of like, Mike, you gotta do something with all this stuff. It's piling up. You got way too much of it. I was like, okay, no problem. So I picked up the old windows that I had and I smashed all the glass out and I took all the putty out of the back and I actually replaced the glass with mirror and I put some mirror behind it and I actually sold my first piece. Welcome to the Makers Legacy Podcast. My name is Michael DiFazio, where I help makers of all kinds grow and scale their companies to leave a legacy for their families and their communities. Guys, I'm continuing with my story today. I'm super excited because I've never really told this story to anyone before, but this is exactly how I actually started my business. And it starts out with me falling in love with mini trucks, old, beat up, crusty mini trucks. I don't know what it is about them. I got a soft spot in my heart about mini trucks. And when I was, I don't know how old I was, maybe 21, 20 years old, I bought my first S10 pickup truck, square body, loved that thing, rebuilt the entire truck many, many times, spent way too much money on it. And I think it kind of like defined who I was as a dude today because it really showed me how to have patience with things. You know, driving old trucks, you learn how to fix tiny little details. You kind of work with what you got. But I fell in love with it for all sorts of other reasons. But I wanted to share a story with you guys because I hope that this inspires you guys to just start doing anything wherever you're at currently, right? Because we're all at different levels and we're all in different places in our lives and in our businesses. And sometimes just hearing what other people did to get from point A to point B might help you along in the position that you're at now. So I'm sharing with you guys how I got started with my business. So I fell in love with this little pickup truck. It was kind of a rat rod. It was kind of a little beat up truck, whatever. It was awesome and I loved it. But it was small, so I was able to drive pretty much anywhere with this pickup truck. And I did what I now call alley surfing. And alley surfing was a cool way to say collecting junk or just, I guess collecting junk is probably the coolest way to say it if I didn't call it alley surfing. But alley surfing definitely makes it a lot cooler. So I would drive up and down alleys and I would be looking for old things, old windows, old doors, old pieces of wood, anything metals, anything that I thought was cool and had a little bit of a patina to it. And I personally loved patina on anything. And for those of you guys who don't know what patina is, it's kind of like the natural finish that Mother Nature left on whatever piece of wood or whatever piece of metal that I was finding, right? So like the paint's chipping, there's a little bit of rust, there's a little bit of dirt on it, things like that. Whatever had something cool in the alley, I would just throw it in the back of my pickup truck and I would drop it off at my mom's. And I would do this all the time because I was kind of like falling in love with the American pickers type vibe. And I just wanted to find old cool stuff in the alleys. So I started stacking at my mom's place and my mom was kind of like, Mike, you got to do something with all this stuff. It's piling up. You got way too much of it. And it's starting to make my yard look like a junk pile. So I was like, okay, no problem. So I picked up the old windows that I had and I smashed all the glass out and I took all the putty out of the back and I actually replaced the glass with mirror. And I had this old window frame with really cool patina on it. It was like chippy white paint, super farmhouse chic style looking thing. And I put some mirror behind it and I actually sold my first piece. I sold it for $75, which at the time blew my mind because I was just a bartender making a couple bucks. I was not really concerned about making money. I was just trying to do whatever. And I needed to go on tour with my band. So I started making these things. And so I sold my first one for $75, took a bunch of pictures for it, decided to make a bunch of other ones. And I started taking pictures of all these things that I was doing. My brother was an artist growing up, so he was always doing art shows and whatnot. And I figured that maybe I could take all of these things because they're unique in their own way. They kind of have their own artistic flair. That maybe I can take maybe I can take my pieces that I'm building to the art show and sell them to people that were looking to buy stuff, people that were looking for decor and art for their homes. So I took a bunch of pictures of each piece that I did, and I maybe say let's say I made 10 pieces. I would take about 10 photos of each piece, all the little detail that I wanted people to pay attention to, and I got all the photos printed, put them in a book, and with that book, I actually went door to door to restaurants and coffee shops and retail stores and pretty much anybody that had walking traffic. And I went inside and said, hey, I have these old windows in the back of my truck, my crappy old pickup truck outside, and I have my portfolio here with all the work that I've done to transform these windows into chalkboards, mirrors, corkboards, picture frames, whatever, right? And I said, if you want one of these for your place, I will build one for you. It'll be $75 or whatever the case may be. And I just used these pieces of window that I was picking up in the alley, and I was using them as a way to just sell right away while building an inventory to do my first art show. So at the time of my first art show, I had an entire portfolio to show off, which also helped out at the art show. And I was also able to start selling things before my first art show. And I started making a little bit of money selling this junk out of my mom's backyard. And it was crazy to me that people were buying this stuff, and I was having a good time doing it. So I went to my first art show, and I had, 10 windows. I had my portfolio there. I had my first business cards, which were almost business cards made by hand, super scrappy. And I set up my art show, and I was just standing behind the booth. I was sitting behind the table in the freezing cold. It was like a winter night market in downtown Windsor. It was so cold, and I had my stuff there. There was hardly any traffic, but I was able to kind of get my reps in and figure out what it was actually like to become a vendor at an art show or offer the things that I was selling to the people that were potentially buying it. So, I think I sold maybe one, maybe two. I didn't really make that much money at the trade show, but I did meet this super weird, quirky dude that had a lighting business, and his name was Adam Mars. The guy's amazing. If you're from Windsor, you probably know who I'm talking about. But Adam Mars will always have a place in my heart because Adam Mars was one of the first people that actually believed in what I was able to do with my hands. He was the first person to say, wow, Mike, this stuff is beautiful. What else can you do? And we got to talking, and we started talking about a custom project. And in my mind at the time, I never even considered what building a custom project would entail. I just kind of said, yeah, sure, I'll do it. What do you mean custom project though? What do you want? I have my windows here with picture frames and mirrors and chalkboard in the back. What could you possibly want me to build you that would be custom? So he was like, look, I don't want any of your windows, but here's my contact information. Let's meet up next week. Let's go for lunch. And I want to explain to you what I'm doing. And the next week, whatever. Long story short, the art show didn't really make me that much money, but it got my reps in. It made me get my first business cards. It really got me out there. And I had to prepare first to even go to the art show. So I had to get some reps in, learning a trade that was brand new to me. So at this point, I only had little bit of experience going door to door, having a little bit of success there, and having my first art show, having a little bit of success there. But Adam Mars, the reason why this story is so important, he threw me a bone. We went out for lunch, and we're eating, and he's drawing this little thing on a piece of paper, and I have really no idea what he's doing. The guy's got crazy ideas, and I've always loved him for this. And he's like, I want to build a backdrop for my trade show. So I'm like, okay, so this guy's doing art shows or a trade show or some sort of exhibit, just like I was doing, but he wants me to build his trade show so that he can continue growing his business. And I thought that was kind of cool. And it was kind of all new to me because this is the first time I've really ever got exposed to any sort of business before. So we draw it out, and he's got these big wooden slats that are suspended by some truss, and there's a little bit of a gate, and he just wanted to create a scene for his art show. He wasn't really selling wood or selling anything that would be handmade. He was selling his services as like an artistic backdrop so that he can really show off what he was doing in his lighting, which because his business was lighting and staging. And I said, no problem, I'll do it. So he's like, I have a budget of $800, and my mind blew. I could not even fathom that this guy wanted to give me $800 to build this thing, and not knowing what it entailed at all, not knowing how much time it was going to take, not knowing anything at the time. I said, yes, I will do it. Yes, I'll figure it out. And that was when I took my first custom job. So I was tasked to build this thing. I never got paid for it, never took a deposit, never wrote an invoice, never did any marketing, never did any sales. I put myself out there and somebody threw me a bone, and that bone was my first custom job. So this design was really cool. There was big slats, and I had to find big slats. And honestly, coming from where I was at, I've never bought wood before in my life. So when I'm seeing big slats in this guy's sketch on the napkin that he was drawing at lunch that day, I just said, yes, I'll do it. But I had no idea where to even begin to look for the wood. So I did what I was already good at. I went back alley surf, and I started going up and down alleys trying to find a stack of wood. And then I saw it. It was in the form of a fence, and it was a falling down fence. The fence was falling down. It was half rotted. It was garbage. And it was the coldest day ever. My truck hardly had heat. And I'm driving around in my little pickup truck, and I see this fence, and I literally had to go and knock on the lady's door and say, hey, miss, I see your fence is falling over. Would you mind if I bought it off you? And I wanted to buy it because it was cool. And honestly, it was the only thing that I actually saw that would have actually been able to work for this project, because you don't find a stack of wood in an alley. You have to find something that you can eventually turn into a stack of wood so you can go build something out of it. I was looking for something that didn't exist. So I found this lady's fence. I knocked on the door. She didn't speak a word of English. She points at another house and says, and she just kind of keeps pointing at another house. So I'm assuming this guy over here owns the house, or this guy over here would be able to help me. I knock on the house. It's clearly her son. He can speak English, and he sells me the fence for $50. And I said, no problem. I'll be right back. I drive home. I grab a hammer and a pry bar and a $50 bill, and I walk up to this guy, give him the thing, and I start taking this fence down. And this fence was the hardest wood I never even knew wood could be so intense. It was so dense. The wood was so rotted. I could barely get the nails out of it. Like the nails were like fusing to the wood. It was a very hard thing to take apart, but the wood was so freaking cool. And I eventually got the fence down, and I remember stacking these boards in my pickup truck. Guys, this is a mini truck. The truck of the box of my truck is like 6 feet. I have like 13 footers in the back of this truck, and I'm loading up this truck, and these boards are hanging out like 6-7 feet out of the back of my truck, and it starts snowing, and it's the craziest blizzard I have ever been in my truck at the time. I'm new. I'm a new driver. I'm like 20 years old. I got my license late, okay, whatever. But I'm driving, and I'm driving all over the road, and I have these boards in my truck, and I now know what I'm going to do. So this $800 job just cost me $50, and I feel like I hit the lottery. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because I had no idea what I'm doing. And the lesson that I'm here to tell with this story today is just act. If you don't know what you want to be doing yet, or you don't know the type of work you want to be doing, and you're just eager to kind of get something moving, just start doing something. I said yes to that job. I said yes to this design, and I had no idea where to even buy wood, so I did what I knew at the time. And because I didn't know where to buy wood, and because I didn't know how to source materials, or how to design, or how to do an invoice, or how to properly price something, I got the job. And I was able to create something that was so unique for the client, because this project ended up being incredible. It looked so good, and the wood did most of the work because the wood was the focal point of the entire project. And sometimes having the creativity, or not knowing how to do something, is the creativity you're able to bring to the table. I didn't go to Home Depot and try and buy boards. I went back to what I knew, which was driving up and down alleys to find the right materials. I didn't call my lumber supply to find the perfect material. I went out finding them. And because I didn't know what I was doing, I was able to provide such a unique product with the material that I found in an alley. I, not knowing this, created a business, and it was cool because it's like, I used the tools that I had, and I hardly even knew how to use the tools back then. And I just found ways to build things, and I found ways to get better. And as I got better, the product that I was building kept getting better and better. And it kind of just formed this natural progression of making better products, being better with talking to clients, and just constantly getting more and more creative, because every time I got commissioned after that to build something else, I just went back to what I knew, and what I knew was not much at all. So I just went back to just doing what I knew, which was finding things in the alleys and finding ways to use things that weren't really built for that, right? That fence was a fence. It wasn't supposed to be a backdrop. I built a backdrop out of a fence, and the backdrop looked amazing, and there was nothing like it. My whole thing that I want to do to talk to you guys about today, the whole point I'm trying to make today is, don't wait to know how to do something to do it. Do it and learn what that thing is going to teach you. Sometimes we get bogged down in trying to make things perfect when we have no idea how it works in the first place, and then we just stop doing the thing in the first place because we don't know what the outcome is going to be. We don't know exactly how it's supposed to be done, and then we don't even create an outcome. I was able to learn because I was just doing, just taking action and just figuring it out. And that's such an incredible, powerful place to be, because you're learning things that no one's really going to be able to teach you, right? I can teach you where to buy wood, but I can't teach you to just go and find somebody's fence and turn that into something unique. That's where I built my entire brand off this premise that, like, the materials do most of the singing. The materials are kind of the star of the show here. And I'm just here to facilitate an incredible design, or find a way that lets the material do its singing, I guess. So, guys, with that, I encourage you guys to take action. If you guys are stuck right now in your woodworking business and you need help getting past something, or you're getting bogged down by not knowing how to do something and you want help, I can help you do this. Send me a message. Check me out on Instagram, Michael DiFazio_. You can check out some of the things I'm posting. You can learn from the podcast that I'm putting on here. Guys, give me a subscribe. Give me a follow. Let me hear your questions. I can answer your questions in these pieces of content that I'm doing, and I'm having a blast doing it. So please share it. Please follow along. And I hope you guys get something out of this. And guys, all I can ask is that you share this with somebody that needs to hear it. Somebody that needs to stop procrastinating and just start doing. Peace out. I'll see you guys in the next one. And thanks for listening.